so we ready to go?
I think you're good. I'll find out from the audience if we're not.
Yeah, so let's launch. So, hey, welcome everybody. We are, where are we at?
Big Bear, California.
We're in Big Bear, California, and SEMA 360. And welcome to SEMA. I guess this is the reality of our new world right now.
Yeah.
Hopefully, but we want to talk about. We've got Dave. How you doing, Dave? You got audio on us?
Very well. How are you? Everything going well down there? Can you hear me?
Oh, I heard a little something.
Yeah, we got you.
Okay, I had a little headphone problem this morning.
Okay.
And so, hey, we've got I've got that speaker in back of us, so you can hook to that, the Bluetooth. Did that help you?
I think we might get an issue.
Yeah. Actually, what we'll do is we'll just we can kind of hear him a little bit, and you can tell us.
Okay, there we go. So let's dive into. So this year's a special year for P&S. Is going into 2021. It's 60 years.
Yep.
60 years ago that your guys' father started the business. So what we've done is we've got all of our team here. Dave's running the mothership back up in Hayward. So we've got him remotely, but we've got all the management here and then Dave. So let's start backwards. I'm going to start out, guys, if you don't mind. Let's start backwards. So how does a company make it to a legacy level like this 60 years? I mean, most businesses struggle to make 10 years. And here you guys are, 60 years into it. So what's the makeup of making your company that successful?
Obviously, I think you have to like your business partner, right? So the fact that I have my brother, and who's one of my best friends, we do definitely enjoy working together.
Mm-hmm.
If there's a good mix, we have different personalities, but we blend really well. Kind of like we were talking about this team. Why do we do so well together? Because we each kind of understand our roles. And then also, our father taught us, really incredible sound business principles. That the number one thing is to take care of your business. In other words, take care of the company and the business will take care of you.
Right.
And then also one of the things he taught us, you work in a family business, you got to be prepared to leave your business at work and to be able to just let it all go when you get home. Because, Dave and I are good friends and we get along really well, but the fact of the matter is we have some pretty aggressive arguments at work. And then, we just have to set it aside and move forward. I've
been there quite a bit. I've never seen you guys argue, but I've seen the husband and wife looks that you guys give each other now and again.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
You know it.
Our employees have seen us argue.
Have they?
They tend to clear.
Do they really? Oh yeah. It's like a minefield. It's just bad.
We really argue. It's definitely a brother fight, right? Which brother fights, they could be pretty intense.
Right.
So, yeah.
So do you guys can you leave that at home or leave that at work?
Absolutely.
Really?
I mean, because one of the things that my mom worked a lot with my dad.
Right.
So, they were essentially business partners. So when they came home to the boys, they just didn't talk business.
Right.
They may have talked about it a little bit. It wasn't like you couldn't talk about it.
Yeah.
But the foundation was, you're not going to argue over it and you're not going to carry a grudge about it, right? Because you have to let it go.
We had that 7. I've mentioned it many times, but it's worth saying again. And, all of us, we, especially right now, most of anybody that's watching is remote working, is you're either working at your shop. I mean, your contacts have changed. Look at the fact that we're holding, SEMA online this year. So everything's changed. But Diane and I have had that rule 7 to 7, between 7 in the morning and 7 at night, we'll talk business.
Right.
Now we've realized that was obviously a mistake, and it really should have been like 8 to 5,
right.
8 to 4. So we try to ramp up to work, and then while we're still working, we start ramping out of work. Does that make sense?
Well, and you have with the shop on your property,
right?
You really kind of got to set some boundaries.
Yeah, because we don't have a trip home.
Your trip home is a 2-second walk.
Yeah. And so it's not there. So that's now. Do you guys? And I'm going in. I'm sorry, I'm asking a lot of questions. So do you and Dave, do you guys, hey Dave, I'm gonna ask this question to you. Do you guys correspond a lot with non-business stuff like on the weekends?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we do. I mean, then on the other hand, sometimes there's just a weekend where, I'm off doing something, Bob's off doing something, and then we check in on Monday morning. You're like, hey, what'd you do this weekend? So, we do both. Sometimes we, get together at each other's houses on a weekend night or afternoon. Then there's, activities and things we like to do, which are the lifestyle things. Hey, one thing I did want to say, can you hear me?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay, one thing I did want to say, what we've probably never
hear,
but being that Bob mentioned that my mom worked with my dad, but my grandmother worked with my dad before my mom. So he ran the office in San Francisco.
You got it.
We got you.
Turn it down first.
Yeah.
You good now?
Wow.
Are you guys, yeah, I don't think, can you hear me? Is that what the deal is? Chris, you can hear me, but they can't?
That's it. I can hear you, but they can't.
Right,
It's
okay.
okay. I'm reading your lips. I'm getting about every third word.
Yeah. But it sounded really impressive, Dave, every third word.
And you're so damn handsome, it doesn't matter.
Exactly.
No, it doesn't matter. Nice shirt. And so with that, Dave, it looked, whatever you said looked amazing. So let's go ahead, as we say, let's go ladies first. So we each kind of prepared a question for you and Dave. So let's go ahead and start. First off, for those that don't know Sydney, introduce yourself. She's what makes us all look good. Well, except for Bob. Her and Bob make us look good,
All right, so I'm Sydney Quinn. I am from Boise, Idaho. I own my own shop there, and I have been part of P&S for about a year and a half now. So my question for Bob and Dave is, need to be closer.
Get my mic.
My question is, 2020 has been a really challenging year for probably everybody in business. So I wanted to know, kind of a two-part question is, what was the best way that you strategically took on the challenges for 2020? And then what was another time in the last 60 years where P&S faced a similar challenge and overcame it, how they did this year?
Right. Yeah. So obviously, when the pandemic hit, we were like every company kind of wondering, what was going to happen. Dave quickly developed a really nice strategy of us, basically dividing our team in half. And so that we would have, half of the team work Monday and Tuesday, the other half work Wednesday, Thursday, and then we were off on Friday. So we immediately reduced staff. And the goal was really to keep people employed. That was our goal. We literally, at the time, said, we don't know what's going to happen to our business. Our business could go to zero. We didn't expect that, but you never know. And then so basically, our business could go to zero. And we looked at our bank account and we said, all right, here's our burn rate. Here's how long we can last on the capital that we had without, borrowing any money or anything like that. That lasted about 2.5 weeks because the business just took off. So it took a little, everybody took a hit in April, and then the majority of the companies in our industry, most people like talking to the industry, and, whether it be, automotive related or, a motor coach or a boat or a motorcycle or anything that had to do with things happening at home in the U.S., businesses, have done incredibly well during this pandemic. So then business took off, and then we couldn't buy simple things like sprayers and bottles, and lead times went up, so stress level went way up. And we had to adjust the way we ran our business. We had to forecast much further out. And then our customers had to reset their expectations because what normally would take 2-3 days to get out of our facility now takes 8 to 10 days, and sometimes even longer. And then back order was really not part of our makeup when the pandemic started because we pretty much ourselves were always full. We always had inventory. Now, unfortunately, back order is part of our vocabulary. Wouldn't you say, Dave? Is that pretty concise?
Yeah, absolutely. Can you hear me again? You guys picking this up yet? Yeah.
Dave, I got you fine.
Okay. Well, anyway, yeah, that actually is. You just tell them when I'm done talking, Chris, and that way they can nod. Yeah, that is actually pretty exactly what happened, and we're still facing scenarios like that, and I think we're seeing more of it in the general public. I mean, a lot of things are taking a long time to show up at this point, but that certainly was. I would have to say we didn't have a pre-plan for something like a pandemic or maybe some other huge disaster. We kind of try to think on our feet, and we move forward with what's given to us.
All right. So I've always wanted to do this. I've removed the mic, but I always wanted to talk into my hand, So I put it on my watch, and so that way we can move it around. And so next we're going to go down and I'll ask a question. This is to entertain me as much as it is anybody watching. Is that we had a little powwow this morning, right? Bob made my eyes sweat. I got to talk into my watch. So we've all known each other for so long. I mean, it's not new relationships. So who out of the two of you, who goes back the longest with P&S?
I think Keith maybe a little bit.
Really?
Yeah.
A couple of days maybe.
Really?
It's that close.
Not long.
Pretty close.
Yeah.
So we're going to go ahead and now I'm going to push off my watch, my fancy, Secret Service. It is voting day, so we can act like we have the
Is this the
football.
requirement?
There you go. See, yeah, I like that.
That probably makes Chris's head explode. So before we go any further, Brittany, I got to do one more thing. Chris, roll back a little bit. Come back in here in the frame.
What's in the frame?
Oh,
So
yeah, there
we've
you
got
go.
a team here at P&S, and
Chris runs the show.
Yeah, Chris is looking.
producer Chris. So
Yeah, there he is. He's
welcome
on
to
there
the.
now.
I wanted to make sure we got Chris a little screen time and recognize that
Right.
he's the guy doing all the technical work and pulling this together. And what nobody knows is Chris moves his house up here for every time he comes up to see Rennie, just so he can run operations. So
there you
thank you, sir.
Yeah, thanks, bud. That was a good move. Thank you. Thank you.
So
All right.
my turn for questions.
Your turn for a question.
So let's touch on that relationship thing. Because when I got to know Bob, was really we knew each other, but we got to know each other through the IDA and our affiliation on the board. And Bob kept me out of prison a few times with my presidency and so one of the things I want to ask about, because I think it's a unique talent that people don't really realize. How have you guys, or where did you learn this skill of cultivating the relationships? Because as I look at our legacy distributors, our long-term guys, they all have this incredible relationship with you or Dave, for both of them. And, that's visible at this table, and really near history. But you've been kind of captaining the ship for, 30 years now, you and Dave. How do you do that? I mean, is it just something that your dad taught you? Is it something you grew up in? Where does that come from?
Well, I mean, obviously, when P&S first started, there were really three primary partners, and they all were sales guys on the truck out selling product, which would be typical of route sales in our industry. But as they added distribution partners, they basically added people that had common values, and they made really strong relationships. And most of our legacy distributors, I know extremely well, and most of them are close personal friends. I think the challenge now is our business has changed so much over the last 5 years. I don't know everybody as well as I would like to. So, that is a challenge. But you form relationships with people that have common values, and so that you see things in a similar fashion. So it's actually, to me, it's very easy. I mean, maybe some people it's not very easy. Maybe that's just the way our dad taught us. But to us, it's very easy. We find people we know they're going to be a fit, and you basically bring them in. And then, one of the things is also I say, Rennie and I were talking at the P&S earlier this year about adding staff, particularly from the sales side or out in the field. You have to be prepared to have a platform that they can blossom on. everybody has to have a place. So, you know, we put the pieces of the puzzle together, making sure everybody has a platform to stand on, and that they can be themselves. I mean, when we first formed a relationship with Rennie, the question was, you know, it was like, once we kind of formed a relationship, you said, well, what do you want me to be? I go, I just want you to be yourself. That's it, right? So.
Let me add something to that real quick. Pass down my watch. You know, and it's funny is because short leash. I took a note on this. The Phillips family. You know, I'm 54 years old. We started this. Really, when was the official? We worked everything out. Was it 6 years ago? 5 years ago?
I think 5 years.
5 years ago.
Yeah.
And then we launched Double Black 4 years ago. It'll be 5 years in spring.
Mm-hmm.
But with that, I wanted to, this is out. I don't care if you're 14 and watching this or 54 or 64, 74, it doesn't matter. The Phillips family, their influence on me to becoming a better person and man and business person has been huge. Because each person that you come in contact with is going to have a gift that either through struggle or through, in this instance, your dad, your mom, is there are some things that you guys learned at a young age that you guys instilled on me at a later age. Does that make sense? Don't be afraid to adapt. When you see something you like, you're never too young or too old to adapt to it. Because even before you guys said that, it's a great question, by the way, is that the Phillips family, the influence, and I said this earlier, didn't I? The influence that you guys have made on so many, what that does is that bleeds out to countless people. Because each one that we come in contact with gets that same input. And so it's cool to see that when friends, colleagues, business partners can influence each other in a positive way. And whenever I do something, I think, oh my God, what's the impact going to be on how many people? And, you know, if you're by yourself, you might say you're a solo shop, you own a small business, you're by yourself. No, you're not. Because everything you do impacts your family, it impacts your future staff, it impacts your suppliers, it impacts your entire industry in some cases. So great point.
Well, and also, Randy, to, you know, kind of flip that around, you also, you know, we learn from everybody here.
Oh,
so, I mean, man, when people ask, you know, 5 years ago, what changed your business? It was 6 years ago coming to your class. That was part of our plan that Dave and I put together 8 years ago, was to kind of re-engage with the industry, get involved with the IBA. But then once I found your course, we wanted to come here because we wanted to find out where the industry was going and what was current in the industry. So we came to your class, and then we go, hey, we found this great mentor, right, and friend that could help us work together. Of course, Double Black was never part of that. None of this vision was ever there, right? But you also have to be prepared to let people in so they can influence you. I mean, you know, Sydney and Kyle and Keith and Prentice and all, you guys help us every day because we're not perfect. We make mistakes. And just yesterday, we pulled out a product. We won't name the product. But I think this could be better. I'm like, yeah, I kind of agree. I think it could be better, right? So, I mean, we learn every day.
We'll talk about that on Wednesday, Dave.
Yeah.
You know, and the one point I want to put is I just broke out 60 years.
Can I add 2 cents there?
Dave has something.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
No, I would say, you know, I think one of the big deals, and I think was basically from our family was, you know, find people you can trust and treat them with respect. And so and finding people you can trust isn't necessarily always the people you agree with or the people that you like the most. It's the people that you can trust to be honest with you, whether they're agreeing with you or disagreeing with you. And I think one of the things that Bob and I have done pretty well is surround ourselves with people we can trust, which is really important for all relationships. One of the things that we, you know, as kind of a caveat there is there aren't a lot of people left around that we don't trust because, you know, we're a little on the ruthless side. When it comes to, you know, where, you know, we find we've been burnt a couple of times, we kind of, those relationships go away. And so when you surround yourself with customers and people that you can trust, I mean, how can you go wrong? And when you know, basically follow a pretty good guideline of the golden rule, treat people with respect and the way you'd like to be treated, it works well.
Good to go. So let me see this.
Chris, to help us going forward, since we're removed from Dave. Dave, can you just raise your hand when you want to say something? That way we can see. Otherwise, we can't tell.
There you go.
Yeah.
And so I just wrote this down to 60. You know, we're talking
When I'm
about
done,
60.
I'm going to say,
At some point, your dad said, "Hey, man, I've got to get through this first. I got to get through this first year. Then I got to get to 5. Then I got to get to 10, and 10 equals the future." Is stay the course.
Well, you know, to comment on that, and I know we've got a lot of questions, but one of the things that was great about our father, and I've said this at his service, he made decisions without fear. So when he made a decision to do something, the decision was made, the past was in the past, the future was what I'm looking at. And so when Dave and we were roommates, and I remember Dave had his first Mac computer, and we were drafting up our business plan to build our new and current manufacturing facility that's now 30 years old that we've been in ever since. And, you know, our presentation was basically, hey, Dad, here's your boys. They don't really have anything in terms of assets, right? But we want to work hard, and we think we're pretty good at it. Why don't you just leverage your retirement and build this new facility so we can carry on with our life? And so when we presented that business plan to him, we were like, I wonder how he's going to take it. This most shocking thing, I think, that Dave and I, was he read the business plan. We still have it, by the way. He read the business plan, and he went like, you know what? That's a great idea. We should have done that years ago. Let's do it. I mean, it was like, it wasn't like, oh my God, that's going to cost a lot of money. It could affect my retirement. He was like, no, we're in. And I mean, and the way he did it was, he basically just said, okay, let's do it. And he just started acting as a facilitator. It was actually really cool.
That's awesome. Prentice, you want to go over?
All right, so Mr. Director of Training, Prentice Sinclair.
That's me, Director of Training.
He's also our part-time MC.
That's right. Hello, how are you, everybody? Good morning. What are you doing? So, Bob, you may have already answered this, but can you remember a couple of things that your dad exemplified that really shaped the company but still guide it today?
Dave, are you raising your hand? Do you want me to respond?
No,
I've got a good response.
you
want
go.
me? That's me. Got it. Okay. So one of the things that my dad did was that still influences me today, and I hope our vendors appreciate it, is treat your vendors like your best customer. Because a lot of times people beat up on their vendors, and realistically, we have some very valuable business partners in our industry that we buy from, and I treat them just like our best customer and like my best friend. Because when you need a favor, you may have to ask your vendors for it. And when they're your friend and you perform for them, they will perform for you.
There you go.
And I mean, I think of one of the classic friendships we have in our industry is Richmond Burrup and Buffenshine. And when we were standing at an event in SEMA, he walked up to me and says, I don't know, but whatever you guys want to do, if you want to do something like this next year, we're in financially. We want to help support it, whatever you guys do. That came from years of friendship and trust, as you know, buying from a vendor, but also mutual respect. So that's one of the things I know that influences me every day. When I talk to our vendors, like for example, if we screw up and we accidentally don't pay a bill, I call them personally, or I email them personally and say, hey, I'm sorry, we lost the invoice, or whatever we did, we'll make it right. And we always make it right, so that's important.
That's something that everybody listening to this can take to heart. If you treat your employees the way you treat your customers, you want to treat your customers as best as possible. If you treat your employees the same way, they're going to treat you.
Yeah, and your whoever. I mean, just treat people with respect.
No, I don't have anything to add.
No?
He's not raising his hand. We're good.
All right, there you go.
All right, coming back to Randy.
All right, so now one of the two kids we call Kyle and Sydney kids.
He's the big kid.
Yeah, he's the big kid. So hold on, I'm gonna pass that down.
All right, it's okay. You can do the smart kid. She's a smart kid. I'm happy to work with her, that's for sure. So my question for Dave and Bob is, in the 60 years you've been part of this company or from your dad's, what is your, not say favorite, but what product are you most proud of? Maybe Dave, your product, Bob, your product. Maybe what do you think your dad, what product he'd be most proud of?
You gonna raise your hand, Dave?
Yeah, I'm just thinking about it a little because there's a lot of products to go through. I think it's going to be, I think if you'd asked me 10 years ago, it would have been Wipe and Shine, which I think is a really neat dressing product. I know everybody has the original gel dressing, but we kind of came up we came up with it independently, if not really early in the game. And I think it's really neat in that it ends up being a durable dressing that, that shines well on application and has good durability. After that, we're going to have to go with Bead Maker.
Shocking.
We're pretty happy with Bead Maker. It turns out, that a lot of the products in the double black line have become pretty successful. A lot of them were unsung heroes over a long period of time, but Bead Maker was really the thing that skyrocketed us into kind of a new realm of popularity, and we're really proud of it. And we are still working with Bead Maker and working on Bead Maker. So it is just like the rest of the double black line. It is not it's not cast in stone. It is going to continue to be improved as we go.
Cool. I would have to say Express Interior Cleaner. No, Dave stole Wipe and Shine. Wipe and Shine is one of my favorites too, because I think it's cool. But really, Express Interior Cleaner, I loved when we really invented that product, for the car wash industry. It was an absolute problem solver for them. They were cleaning interiors, and they were using traditional general purpose cleaner degreasers. And, it was causing streaks and highs and lows and leaving residue on the interiors and doing all the things that traditional degreasers do on interiors. And so when we came out with Express Interior Cleaner, it was really, truly, impactful. And to this day, it's one of my favorite products to use on the inside of the car, whether it's, incredibly dirty or just, kind of minor soil, right? It just does a great job every day, every time. So definitely Express Interior Cleaner. I think my father would have to be High Tone Glaze. Yeah, I mean, he's actually on the bottle now, so we put him on the bottle. But the liquid wax, really, that liquid wax really is what put P&S on the map. Prior to that, it was paste wax. So the combination of a wax-infused solvent wipe-on wax would do an amazing job on single-stage paint back in the days, because you needed something to feed the paint. So what that solvent would do, it would cleanse the surface, feed the paint, and when you wiped it off, it really was a huge change for detailers, because it just made their job, that much easier. So for my dad, it would be High Tone Glaze.
When did that product come out? What year?
I have to say High Tone Glaze was like 64, 65.
Yeah.
And I mean, I remember as a kid, you brought this up the other day, or yesterday actually, if you guys recall a guy by the name of Willie Mays, who's kind of a famous baseball player, probably one of the best baseball players ever to walk the planet. He used to buy a new Cadillac every year from George Olson Cadillac in San Francisco, and he required a 6-gallon case of High Tone Glaze in the trunk of every car when he bought it. And I'll never forget, as a young man, probably in my 20s, Willie Mays actually walked into our shop to buy a case of High Tone. And when he walked in, I practically fell over. I was like, whoa, he goes, yeah, I need a case of High Tone, just like it was every day. And my dad goes, oh yeah, he's been buying a case of High Tone for years. Wow. So yeah, that's kind of it. So High Tone Glaze is definitely kind of a legacy.
So let's do this.
That's my favorite story, by the way.
While you got this, you got to name one favorite P&S product all the way down, real quick. So what's your favorite? And then pass it
Mine's
down.
going to be Kyle's RV.
Set the Express, obviously. Yeah.
exactly.
That's it. So I'll make mine really easy. I'm going to trump you on that one. Mine's the entire double black line.
Mine is, probably most people know this, but it's the clarity cream.
Oh, yeah. That's very creamy. Rennie knows my answer. What's my answer, Rennie?
The entire double black line.
Come on.
I don't know.
When I looked at you like you were insane, I said, you're doing it wrong. And we went and got brake busted.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
it's true. Yeah.
That's my favorite
Keith
part.
is really the godfather of brake
He
busting.
is.
Yeah.
That is.
I'm with Bob, Express Interior. I'm Mr. Interior, so I love that stuff.
Yeah, I do too. Let me come back real quick. I will be a little more direct. Okay, so more direct. We just talked about this yesterday. Probably the one that's the most. It's kind of you call it. I love your saying for it. Swiss Army knife is Pearl Soap. And so, in all fairness, if I'm gonna, because I use it as a clay lube, I use it as a wash, I use it as a foam, I use it as a cage sprayer, as a no rinse. I mean, so there's so many things that I use it for. That we're talking about this being it's not a practical workshop, but it's a workshop. It's not a studio.
Right.
You can come in here and do massive amounts of work in the shop at any given time. But that product is just so useful.
Yeah.
So, okay. So with that, so let's go through some other questions that we had submitted that I want to kind of talk about. Is scaling. We've talked about how we scale a business, Bob and Dave. So often is, and I think this is going to be really interesting because both of you are going to have a different opinion or input on this. Is challenges that you need to think about, whether you're a one-man operation or a sizable company like yours, is when you're experiencing rapid growth. What are some of the things that you pop up in the last 5 years that we've experienced that you would kind of bring a point to?
Yeah, I think I'll start and I'll let Dave close because he's the one that picks up the pieces after we throw it out there. But Dave and I used to laugh when someone would come and go, "Can you handle the volume?" We don't laugh anymore because we now we used to say everything's scalable, and everything is scalable, but it's scalable at a cost, not financial, but just commitment and everything associated with it. So one of the things that we understand now is scalability takes a plan, and you have to be prepared for it. And so we used to just launch products, and demand was really never a problem. Now, when we launch a product, we have to think of all the logistics associated with managing and filling the supply chain, from raw materials to packaging to labels to fulfillment to everything. So, I think, you just have to have a plan, and, you got to make sure you're looking forward because, we talk about, growth is great, but it does come at a cost, both financial and mental and physical. Yeah.
So Dave?
Yeah, I would say, for us, the challenge has been just thinking bigger. Having been in business for now, the 35, 40 years that I've been doing this, and having a very stable and consistent business, I've kind of gotten in a bit of a rut as far as like mental picture of what you need to get things done. And I think that the COVID challenge and the growth has been kind of a double-edged sword in that, not only are we having to think bigger, but as we think bigger, we find that the lead times are increasing, so that by the time I've started thinking bigger, I should have been thinking twice that big. Because as the lead times expand, when we finally, get what we think is going to be the solution to handle the load, it's already 2.5 weeks later or 3 weeks later than we planned on getting it, and we should have ordered it again already. So it's just kind of planning ahead and thinking bigger has been, I think, the biggest challenge with growth for us, for me, not for us, for me.
I think bringing that full circle around is to you those that are watching that are smaller. Maybe you're just starting out. Maybe you're at that year 1 or year 5 and you're growing. I think that in you guys, especially Prentice and Kyle, will testify to this, is the people side of it. because that's usually the weak link is getting help. And culture is such a big part of it to me, is developing that right culture and then realizing what your company is and isn't. A lot of people want to take and be this big, the IBM of detailing. I've been there, done that, and that was awful. That was the worst. And it really ate up 10 years of my life because we got so big and you can't stop a train real fast. And so I think that looking at the people, don't hire until you're 2,000% ready to hire, and to make sure you're not just putting a warm body in the position, because if you can't get the right person, and if you're hiring people and they got cancer and you can't, and not physically, they're just a cancer. If you can't give the right benefits, if you can't get them legitimate, meaning that you can't pay taxes on them, if you can't pay them well, if you can't get them benefits, you want them to be able to live a life to where you create where people come looking for a job with you. I mean, because P&S has done a great job of that, because you guys, talk about your staff for a second, being that part of that. We'll just roll right into culture from here. Is you guys have got, you and Dave took over 30 years ago. You got staff members that are 27, 28 years into this journey with you.
Right.
So that just didn't happen. Let's talk about that a little bit. You and Dave both.
Well, I mean, when you have a company, you commit to your people, and it's like anything. It's like as a detailer, you take on a client. You take on the good and the bad with that client, and so with staff, you take on their whole personality. And so, as a business owner, you have to accept that whole personality, that whole dynamic, the positives, the negatives, and then you're the creator, you're the curator of that mix of people, and how do you foster their vision and their growth. And it's very challenging in a manufacturing environment because, it is, there's a lot of work going on, there's stress, but one of the things that we've been committed to the whole time is, basically, we provide 100% healthcare, always have. We look at that dollar every year, and a lot of people will go, well, we don't necessarily have to do that. We're never going to change that. We support our staff, and that's why they stick around. And, we're constantly working on the dynamic of our people, which is, it's a challenge. And, but it comes with owning a business, no matter how big, how small. I mean, we're not really that large a number of people, but, we do have a lot of people. The most, I think out of our full-time staff, well, we just hired a couple new people, but out of our full-time staff, really the newest hires 8 years ago. And then we've got some new guys that we just, hired this year. And then we kind of have a few rotating staff. It just seems till we find the right person. And then we found a couple, really people that fit our niche. So we recently brought them on full-time. But, so we're constantly looking for people, and you have to be, you can never stop looking for people. It's probably actually one of our biggest weaknesses is not constantly looking for people because we get complacent.
So Dave, it's an interesting fact because while we're out doing, the field work, a lot of times you're the point guy, in the manufacturing, in the shipping, and everything else. So what input would you have on that? Because that's huge. It's absolutely huge.
Yeah, I think it still goes back to, treating your people with respect. Is that, even when they're having a tough time. Fortunately, Bob and I have always been fairly even keeled. I mean, we're not, we do have our good days and bad days for sure. But through that all, I think, having, and it's part of the responsibility of just owning a business is that, you're the guy that has to be at times the level head, whether you feel like you have a level head or not. And you just need to go back in and figure out, that what your goal is in working with people is that you want to make the situation work. And so you have to temper your commentary if you feel like yelling at somebody and say, well, maybe sometimes yelling at somebody is the right thing to do. Maybe sometimes being understanding is the right thing to do, but you have to stop and make that decision and follow through with it. And I think respect and understanding and the goal is what we need to do, what you need to do the most with dealing with your people.
Yeah, Dave pointed out something too that's really unique. We work on this a lot. If you have a bad day at home, can't bring it to work. That's one thing you got to be able to do, because certainly as a business owner or a person in charge, we see our employees, they have a bad day, they come to work. I mean, they're just absolutely like, we're like, what happened, right? They have a bad day at home, they come to work, and they're, as an owner or manager, I mean, it's like people coming to training, Randy, you can have the worst day, but when they're here, you got to forget all that.
No.
You got to put your game face on.
Yeah.
So
I always say, business is a Broadway production. And when a good actor shows up to a Broadway show and they don't feel good or anything else, you can tell a really good entrepreneur when you can't tell when you're having a bad day.
Well, my dad used to say this, and we carry it forward, is, it could be chaos inside these four walls, right?
Right.
I mean, an absolute shit show.
Yeah.
But from the outside looking in, it's got to look like a well-oiled machine.
And there's been times, if we be honest with all of ourselves, where we show up. I mean, if you guys, I'll post pictures after this is over of what the shop looked like 24 hours ago.
Exactly.
It looks all full, right? But it was controlled chaos. Getting all of us had a working piece of getting it all put together, and so that's usually important. So this I'm going to start out with Dave. This question is going to be started out with you this time. So family business. Did you and Bob always have a vision of entering the family business, or did you guys have other aspirations when you were younger? So kind of explain that one, how that worked out.
I did not have that picture when I was very young, or not. I don't know. Very young would be after high school, that sort of stuff. Going to college, I wouldn't say that I had the picture that I was gonna come in and work with P&S, mostly because I haven't liked sales. I didn't like. I kept. My picture was, if I went to P&S sales, I was going to be doing sales, and I don't like sales. I mean, I didn't like sales, but my picture of sales was very incomplete as a kid. It was, door to door selling Scoutorama tickets and newspapers and that sort of stuff. And I knew I didn't like that. So that was my mental picture of what I would be doing if I went to P&S sales. And what turned out was that I'm doing operations. And that works out perfect for me. So when I came in, when I first started at the business, I was doing sales. I came in, I was running a stripe and molding truck, and I was really going around to customers. So I didn't really end up starting off with what I thought I would want to do. I kind of started off with what I thought I wouldn't want to do. What I found was, though, that these are, customers that are repeat customers. I went and saw them every week. I had breakfast sometimes with their families in their kitchen, and I would go in and have coffee. I would meet them, in parking lots sometimes to, and then we talk about. I mean, I knew some of these families when they had their kids, that's not what I thought sales was going to be, and it turns out that's what it is. It's getting to know people. It's building relationships. It's creating trust. I just didn't know that at the time. So no, I didn't have the picture of going into the company when I was a kid, but it turned out to be fantastic.
Great answer. That's awesome. So, Bob.
Yeah, no, I did not. I mean, I appreciated my dad's business. I loved, cleaning cars. I enjoyed all that. I used to go on the route truck when I was a kid. I remember going on the route truck with my dad when I was so small. Could barely pick up a gallon jug. And so we would go on overnight trips to Stockton, California, out of the Bay Area. My dad would service that territory. And I'd hop in the truck in the summertime as a little kid and make the road trip. And then, my job was to go out to the truck and grab the gallons and bring them in. And I really could only do a gallon at a time. So I don't really know how old I was, but obviously you can imagine I must have been pretty teeny.
So fitness started pretty early.
Fitness started early, yeah. But, and then, I went into high school and then, went into college, and I didn't really have a mission, but I think, I really, after kind of high school, I was working in the business. I kind of thought that that's where I was going to end up. And realistically, my dad was, I I didn't get a lot of training. And I'll never forget this. He basically gave me his route. The last route that was a factory route was in the city of San Francisco. And he basically said, here, Bob, this is yours. So I think when I was when I was 19 or 20 years old, he took me out on the route one time, and then that was it.
Wow.
And I had to drive the route, write up the sales tickets. I had to do everything. And, you know, man, I learned a lot on the streets in the city of San Francisco, that's for sure. And, you know, it was like Dave. I didn't really understand what sales, but I went out there and made great friends, and people appreciated that I was a hardworking young guy. And, man, they rewarded me. I mean, I had so many customers, I couldn't handle it, and it was very enjoyable, and I made some of the greatest friends in my life, and they're still friends today. So, you know, I mean, it was a great training ground. And I learned it for 10 years. I ran a rack in the city of San Francisco. I have some of the greatest stories of, you know, driving my van in the city, learning where to park, you know, when businesses were on strike. I mean, I got hundreds of stories of things that, you know, scary things that happened, great things that happened. I mean, getting my truck stuck in an elevator, you know, on the bottom floor. I actually went to a new shop on Van Ness Avenue, and I had, you know, the sales van, and it was filled with chemicals. Well, chemicals is a bunch of water, right? So it was heavy. So the detailer said, oh, here, put this thing in the car elevator. We'll lower it down to my shop, and then you back out. We're going to set up my whole shop. So I had my new truck. I was like the coolest guy. I pulled in there. We get in the elevator. We go down. I back the truck out. And this guy, we're setting up the whole shop. We haven't been going. I go to put the truck back in the elevator. We hit up, and he goes, I'm like, holy shit. We were stuck. So we had to unload all the chemical off the truck, move the truck in, lift the truck up, back it out, and take all the chemical, put it on the elevator, lift it up, and reload the truck. The whole time, while the owner couldn't see that this was happening, because he specifically told the detailer not to put a heavy van in the lift, but he did it anyway. Well, I didn't know that. When the thing wouldn't go up, the detailer looked at me and goes, oh shit, we're in trouble. I'm like, why? He goes, because the owner told me not to put a heavy truck on the lift. I'm like, oh, great. You know,
And it's your truck.
and it's my truck. Anyway, so lots of stories, but it's a great training ground.
And it goes back to equals fitness again. You're starting to lift things again.
Exactly, lift things again.
So, you know, it's funny is I haven't told the story. Is Dave, you just said something that just really hit me between the eyes, is that I was 16 years old and I responded to an ad in the Sun Telegraph. Believe it or not, back then, guys, we didn't have you had to look for jobs in the newspaper. You just getting picked up. So I'm 16. I'm looking for a way to make some quick money over summer. It says, hey, if you've got a great personality and you love people, we've got a job for you. Sounds good to me. I'm 16. I go in this meeting and there's all these old dudes. They're like 25, right? And I'm sitting there and I'm the only teenager there. And they're all kind of smirking at me. Well, I got the job. They like my personality. So I didn't know what it was. I didn't care. The guy says, here's the deal. We're going to give you $100 for your first day. $100 guaranteed your first day. And I was like, oh, and this is 19.
You made it.
Oh, I'm like, here we go. Give it to me. So I go, wow, well, anybody that knows what a Hoover vacuum cleaner is, I had to go door to door and sell Hoover vacuum cleaners. And Dave, I'm with you. I did not like that at all. But I went out because they're going to give me $100, right? Right. And it wasn't that I wanted the $100. Is that person that was probably a hard-earned $100. And so when they said, hey, you're going to have guarantee no matter what, we just need to see your sales log when you get back. And I said, man, I'm going to go out $100. I better work my butt off for this. So I went out and I loaded I had 6 vacuum cleaners in my Baja bug. And I said, he goes, how many do you want? I said 6. And he's like, 6? And I went, yeah. And he goes, okay. So he gives it to me. So I go out and I come back and, you know, I work all day, man, like 10 hours. And when I got back in, I come in, I have the sales slip, I got the money, you know, I got everything. I've none because I took 6. I knew I could sell 6. So he comes in and he goes, so how many vacuums are you turning back in? I said, none. And he goes, you sold all 6 vacuums? And I was like, yeah, is that good? And he goes, son, most of our best salesmen don't sell 6 vacuums in a week. Wow. And I was like, really? And I said, does that mean I get the $100? I probably should have kept my mouth shut because I probably could have got a lot more. But Dave, I didn't go back to work because I hated it. I couldn't stand it. I was really good at it, but I did not want to sell Hoover vacuum cleaners. So that's our story. So now last, moving on.
Hang on, I got one more.
Dave, go for it.
So you're going to see Leah this weekend, and you need to tell her your story because she got to California by selling Kirby vacuums.
Oh,
No way, really? That's unreal, man. Yeah, it's Kirby's and Hoover's. You know, were the big upright fancy ones. You know, and I remember the big Grand Poobah one. I took two of the Grand Poobah ones, which was their chrome. You know, and I sold them, man.
They were heavier.
They were heavy.
Cast metal.
They were heavy.
Chrome coat.
Yeah, they were heavy.
Yeah.
So our last question, we'll move into any Q&As that we've got on the panel, is moving ahead. What is this goes out to both of you. What does over the next 1, 5, and 10 years? What's P&S and Double Black look like a year from now, 5 years from now, and 10 years from now?
Are you raising your hand, Dave?
No, I'm letting you.
He just punted, dude. That's not a punt. Damn it. You just punted.
You know, I think taking advantage of the platform that we now have available us to influence people in the industry, I think is our biggest responsibility. You know, we have a great opportunity that we didn't have
better.
That we didn't have before. You know, we obviously P&S been around a long time, but now you know we have a social media platform, and we have a lot more opportunities to influence and change people. And our goal is, you know, continue to make detailing easier for professionals and enthusiasts, and continue to create great products. So, I mean, that's really, you know, my vision for the next 5 to 10 years. If I look 5 years ahead, it's almost, I don't want to say scary, but when I look back 5 years, which I don't, you know, it's nice to look back, but when I look back at 5 years, the changes that have happened in that 5 years. So now I really can't imagine where we're going to be in the next 5, because things are changing even quicker. But, you know, we're this week, obviously we're planning for that. You know, we do have a plan in place, but with any great plan, you have to be nimble in your plan as well. So I don't really think I know what 5 years is going to look like, but I know our goals and our direction.
I think
Hold on a second. Hold on a second. I got to say my
Watching my thoughts.
so, and I think that really is something that you've positioned yourself as a company to be prepared for whatever comes forward, because we've seen in this industry unexpected changes. You know, like when we thought extractors, that was it. That's all we ever used, and also steamers was the thing. And the same thing with chemicals and polishing machines. But you know, not knowing exactly what's going to happen in 5 years is not necessarily a bad thing for P&S, because you're so nimble, you're capable of recognizing trends and hopping on.
I mean, Dave and I have a goal of where, you know, we want to be personally and where we expect our business to be. You know, there is a plan, but as you know, we set a goal. You set a financial goal 5 years ago.
Yeah, we're gonna hit it.
And I'll be damned if we're not going to hit it. And I'll tell you what, we were all in the room. We were like, "That's never going to happen."
Oh, literally, everybody snickered at me and said, "Yeah, right."
Yeah, right.
And I go, "Listen, it's gonna happen."
It's going to happen. So when I look back 5 years ago, when you set that financial goal, and that now we're, you know, going to hit that number, I'm like, wow. So now what the next 5 years can bring is actually really exciting.
You know, and here's another message real quick. Dave, do you want to add anything in on there? Because you might say something that I want to key in on too.
Yeah, I would say, you know, that one of the reasons that we are not really sure that of the direction is because of, you know, you guys, the people that are sitting at that table come up with amazing ideas. Instead of Bob and I, you know, where, you know, maybe 8 years ago, 10 years ago, we'd sit in Bob's office and go, well, what kind of program do you want to do? And, you know, we'd run something up the flagpole and hope it, and hope we hit the mark. We have a lot of those, and some of them worked, and some of them, and more of them didn't. But you guys do a great job of coming up with ideas and I guess directions that really are really fruitful. And like Prentice said, I think when you leave yourself open and you don't have a concrete direction that you're going, you make it available to take whatever, to at least use whatever directions come your way?
Well, I'll tell you a couple different things I want to, man, I'm glad I kept my mouth shut. I like when the smart guys at the table talk. So, you know, one of the things that we're doing this week, and it's always, we don't discuss where we're going just because we want, but we take our planning for the next year very serious. So that's already started this week, and it cultivates all week long. And in that, when they escape this weekend, which is kind of new to us, because usually we block ourselves away. But we're going to be working very hard this week so that we can enjoy a little personal time with our spouses and significant others. But also is that we started a new thing, is that every 2 to 4 weeks we come together and we have visionary meetings. And all we can talk about in those visionary meetings is nothing that's been on the back burner before. It's everything that we see moving forward. It's new ideas that could pop. And just off our first session that we had, you know, this week, it's probably 50% what I'm going to talk about is what we talked about then. And then once we get through this, every 2 to 4 weeks, we'll pop up and have this visionary meeting again, because it changes everything. And I don't care if you're, again, just starting out, man. You know, a lot of us started out very humbly, you know, not a lot. And it's that vision, it's that dream that really built everything to where at this table, where we're at today. Yeah. And so if you don't keep with that planning and that vision, you're going to struggle.
I just want to say, you know, before we, you know, came on camera here, we had a little 5-minute talk. And one of the things I thought was interesting is, you know, we got together last year in December, and Keith came up with 12 for 12 as a plan. And then we had some goals. And to be honest with you, I think the most spectacular thing that this team pulled off in 2020, which was just, has been the biggest roller coaster ride of a year ever, is that we actually achieved everything that we wanted to achieve with a couple minor exceptions. And to think that we could accomplish that in 2020, when we sat together in December, I'm like, this not going to happen. And then COVID happened. I'm like, this is really not going to happen.
Yeah.
But, you know, we just kept our eye on the ball and we kept moving forward. So kudos to the team and Dave for supporting all our crazy ideas.
So with that, where are we at time-wise?
We're on the mark.
We're about done. So
Okay.
If you wanted to, we could finish up by playing the video. You could introduce that.
Yeah, you know, you want to go ahead and play the video, or?
Yeah, no, absolutely. First off, I want to thank everybody for, you know, tuning in and listening to our 60 years. I hope it added some value, benefit to somebody, but I want to thank this amazing team. And Rennie visited our facility a month ago, and Chris and he took videos, and, you know, it's kind of uncomfortable to show your closet. Yeah. You know?
Yeah. Don't go into mine right now.
Sometimes you don't want to do that. Yeah. And you may watch me go into an uncomfortable moment, but actually quite proud to show off our manufacturing facility and Rennie taking everybody on a tour. So welcome to SEMA 360, everybody. We're going to have a great time.
What's up next on the agenda before we go into this?
Next 9:30, we have an agenda where we're going to